House and Ellen and Erica. Okay. I'll just get started because this is an MCLE and they're supposed to be on time. Good to see you. All right. So, welcome everybody to Lucky Charms for Lawyers. This is the first in what could become a great big series of workshops for lawyers because we're so tickled about our Lucky Charms theme, and we're hoping this will bring you lots of joy today. And I'm Janelle. I am a staff attorney at the Law Center. And yeah, I'll pass it off to Tia.
Hi, I'm Tia. I'm also a staff attorney at the Law Center, and I've enjoyed the past few months um, preparing for this MCLE with Janelle because it's just going to be so positive, and let's get into it. We know many attendees here are lawyers, or maybe all of you, who are here for continuing education credit. Welcome. In the chat, we have shared the two links you need, your certificate of attendance and a sign-in sheet. Please fill out that sign-in sheet after the MCLE because that's how we keep track of the lawyers who actually participated in this program and how we report to the state bar that you should get credit for this. If you forget to save the links, they are also embedded on this slide and you'll receive them via email afterwards. All right, welcome everybody. So, did you know that California has new MCLE requirements, beginning with the compliance period ending January 31st, 2025? That was just earlier this year. Licensees are now required to complete and report compliance on the following new subfields. Technology and the practice of law, that includes education on technology tools, programs, and apps for lawyers and civility in the legal profession, which includes education that discusses like civility between your colleagues and to the judiciary. Competence credits, which you need 2 hours of. One is an optional hour focused on wellness education, including physical and mental wellness and well-being or stress management in the context of the practice of law and the impact these issues can have on an attorney's ability to perform legal services with competence. That's called wellness competence. And then at least 1 hour focus on prevention and detection education. And that's what this MCLE satisfies. So this MCLE is meant to focus on developing awareness of substance use, addiction, and mental health related issues in the legal profession. This includes topics such as the disease of addiction and the impact of addiction on the legal profession, recognizing signs and symptoms of substance use and addiction in oneself or your colleagues, stress management strategies, intervention strategies, ways to report your colleagues if you need to, the relationship between mental health, substance use, and attorney discipline, and the effect of lawyer impairment on the profession, and also destigmatizing mental health and substance use issues. So we're interpreting this to mean that the state bar really wants lawyers to learn about what makes us particularly prone to suffering. So my coworker Janelle and I are going to share tips and tricks and practices to help free us. Hopefully, after this MCLE, you'll have some new strategies for dealing with mental health issues and substance use. So one inspiration for today's workshop is the breakfast cereal Lucky Charms, which has cute marshmallows with magical powers. Our hope is to give you some real nourishment today for the mind, body, and soul. We'll use short, bite-sized lessons, each of which is like a magical charm that may benefit you or what you may wish to share with others. We're sharing the charms that have been most effective in breaking spells for us. And so here are just some things we do that help us. And we're using the framing of magic, charms, and spells, not just to be cute, but to be real about the effect our legal system has on us. You don't need to believe in Harry Potter style magic to appreciate that our legal system and legal profession use a lot of tricks to affect our beliefs and behaviors, effectively putting people under spells. There's all the courtroom rituals and fancy language to make these happen, like pursuant to the power vested in me, it is hereby ordered. Like that's a spell. That sounds like spell language, hocus pocus language. And there's also more harmful practices too, like spells that bind us. We have spells that lock people in cages and spells that trick us into believing that punishment actually helps people heal. Our legal system is taken very seriously, and we inhabit the reality it shapes for us. It's powerful, like magic. And because it causes a lot of suffering, we're here today to share counter spells that have helped free us from the dark spells our legal system has us under. So each module is designed to weaken the spells of fear, competition, and isolation that the legal profession has cast on us. And we'll use several different approaches to support your learning, including several pedagogical tools listed here on this slide that Janelle made it so pretty. In other workshops for lawyers, the content tends to be quite cerebral and focused on the substance of the law. But today, we are trying to reach the deeper parts of ourselves, our embodied experiences, emotions, unconscious and subconscious beliefs and habits, all of which affect how we show up as lawyers, and more importantly, how we show up as humans and how we thrive as humans. We are multifaceted beings who need to be reached in a variety of ways. Like being lectured at has been shown to not be especially effective for most people's learning needs. If you are anxious and your heart is pounding, you probably won't be calmed if we provide you with data about how unhelpful it is to be anxious. But some kind of movement, breathing, or human interaction might help. And that said, we're not just here to tell you to take deep breaths so that you can survive a broken legal system. We're also not minimizing the seriousness and severe and clinical mental health issues, but we do want to get to the root of what causes so much anguish, especially for people dealing with the dark spells of the law. So let's start there with the dark spells.
Okay, now I'm going to take us to the dark side. Thank you, Tia. So yeah, we're not going to focus too much on the dark spells, but if we really want to break these spells, we do want to ask ourselves, what are they? What is the root of them? And so I'll also share personally that I was one of the many law students who was basically kind of fine when I started law school. But then very soon after I started law school, I started to feel really funny. And that weird feeling turned out to be depression. And I have thought about it ever since then. Like, what happened to me? And then I've started to understand how this really kind of happens to a lot of law students and a lot of lawyers. And I've just thought so much about what causes this. And it would be easy to think that, okay, well, lawyers have high rates of anxiety and depression and addiction because they work so hard. It's the stressful hours, it's the stressful responsibility. But actually, if we rewind and go all the way back to law school, before all that responsibility sets in, it's actually extremely high rates of depression and other mental health challenges. One study found that about 9% of students were depressed when they started, and 40% were depressed when they graduated. And so you would think that we would take this data as a profession and think, oh my gosh, we need a do over. Like, we really messed people up. We messed up the law. We messed up something. We just got to do it over. And I do think we need to do that. But in the meantime, let's just ask, yeah, what may have gone wrong, and how does it even start in law school? And this is kind of, I think it's sort of a funny slide, and you can come back and read it because I just started thinking about every single thing I learned in law school and how weird it is, how it really doesn't actually comport with my understanding of reality, my understanding of how humans take care of each other, how we get together and creatively solve problems. Like, by the time we get to law school, we've already lived very full human lives. And then suddenly, law school says, okay, forget a lot of what you learned about reality and feelings and humans, and just learn this really narrow system for solving problems and for allocating wealth and for understanding reality. It just really narrows in. And then inside of us, we're probably going like, it, isn't something else possible? Aren't there other ways that we've historically solved problems? But when that voice comes up, we have to be like, shh, quiet, quiet. We have to keep actually suppressing our instincts and suppressing our memories so that we can focus and actually succeed in this system of law and law school. And so, I mean, one of my theories is just that the ways of thinking that we're taught in law school force us to suppress so much of what we really know in our hearts. that the habit of suppression can turn into depression, or it can burst out of us in the form of anxiety attacks, or it can lead us to want to numb ourselves through addictions. And so I've experienced all of that. And yeah, this is just one of the ways that I think our profession does that to us. And in general, what we're learning is that in order to be competent, quote unquote, and this is a workshop on competence, is that we really need to learn how to compete and win. It's a system of winners and losers ultimately. And so competition is inherent in all this. And our legal system is built on this worldview, which most of our culture has integrated this idea that humans are selfish and we're brutish. And so we need to control each other. Um, and it creates a system where only some of us are going to win and others are going to lose. We need to compete in order to belong. And this really I just think that really messes with our sense of okayness in the world. And then as lawyers, of course, like as professionals, I mean, this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I just, the image, that we need to really be good. We need to be confident. We need to be knowledgeable. We need to armor up and just dominate. And then if any part of us feels like I'm not that, then there's dissonance. And I think that's the root of a lot of suffering. So, one way we want to kind of break that spell is to just ask ourselves, who are we though? Like, I don't think we're that machine. So, who are we? Okay, so this is where I want us to kind of come back to ourselves for a moment. Um, and I'm going to ask folks, well, first of all, you can look at this cute picture, contrast it to the little robot that I shared a moment ago. This picture is my self portrait that I feel is actually a much more accurate portrait of me when I start to really think about who I am or what I am. And you might start to feel like you look like this too. So maybe close your eyes and just start to feel into like, what are you? What are you made of? And one reason I do that is I I like to imagine, not imagine, just understand up of trillions of cells. And each of those cells is going around and they're making decisions inside of me, decisions that are helping to nurture my aliveness. And so there's just trillions of them. And then in addition to the trillions of cells that are kind of like part of my system that have my DNA, there's also trillions that don't even have my DNA. They are their own people. They are like the bacteria and the fungi and other things that live in my system, but that are also absolutely necessary to my aliveness. And so there is just sort of like this cloud of life. It's like, so if I ask myself, like, who am I? Oh, I am a cloud of cooperating cells. So I don't know, just take a moment and feel that that's what you are. And what I love about that is when I think about it, I start to feel kind of fuzzy. I start to kind of feel like I'm expanding a little bit and maybe I feel a little tingly. And then I'm like, well, where do I start? Where do I end? There's just, swirls and mounds of cells. And I start to kind of forget about this human shape that I have and just kind of feel all of this activity and then just feel grateful for it. And then the other thing I like to remember is, what are those cells made out of? And then I start to just feel this awe of like all of the elements and how old they are and where they've been. First of all, there's all this water. So much of us is water, and that water has been on Earth for a very long time. It's been circulating and recirculating. Lots of other people and animals have drunk the water and peed it out, and it's gone through that whole cycle and rained down, and that's in me. So I'm a little bit of everybody else. And then there are these elements that scientists say there's a lot of elements in us, like heavier metals, that could not have been made on Earth. They must have been made in exploding stars or some other place that makes, powerful stuff. So that's in me too. And then there's this air that I'm breathing. Like this air that I'm breathing, you all may have breathed this air. Um, so the great thing about contemplating all of this is that if I ever get it in my head that I'm a lawyer, I did invest a lot of money in becoming a lawyer and a lot of time, and I have had some apparent success at being that. But when I start to identify with it too much, it's very easy for me to feel like I'm failing at it. But if I remember that I am just a massive mound of cooperating life made of elements as old as time, then I feel like I'm doing a great job and it really takes the pressure off. So I don't know if that helps you at all. It might just feel weird, but we thought weird is good no matter what because it's the ordinary mind and it's our ordinary patterns of thinking that tend to get us into trouble. So you're welcome for this little weird experiment. And I'll also share another personal practice. This is another personal charm is that sometimes as a journaling prompt, especially in the morning when I just woke up and my thoughts haven't really set in to their normal patterns yet, I'll just ask myself, who am I? And then I'll pause and wait for the answer. And then I'll write down the first thing that comes to me. And I get the weirdest answers. Some of them are actually listed here in the cartoon. And they're very strange, but then I also read them and I think, well, that's also kind of accurate. So I would just suggest this as another practice that you could try to just help break up any sense of identification you might have with I am a lawyer. And yeah, just see what happens and see how it helps you. So, moving along with our charms, you might think, well, okay, yeah, maybe I'm a big ball of cells. That's great. But we still live in a scary world, right? Like, we live in a world where people are nuts and they hurt each other and it's very dangerous. And so now we want to maybe share some spells, some of the spells that have helped me realize that actually this is a very loving world that I'm living in, and I am surrounded by loving humans, and it really helps me relax. And I'll also share that I'm in the middle of writing a book, and I think in the chat we've shared a link to the first 7 chapters. And the book is called Law for a Loving World, and part of what I've been doing is just trying to understand how we are as humans, how loving we are and what science has shown about that, and to just ask, well, if we are in fact that loving, how might we want to redesign a legal system to support us to be who we actually are? So that's what I'm writing about, and I'll share more of the findings in a moment. But also just to start by saying whether we choose which of these two stories we choose about humans can affect our entire experience of life. And it can also affect how we design our culture, our economic system, our legal system. But basically, I think our society, the dominant culture of our society, has been operating for quite a while on this theory that humans are basically selfish and nasty and brutish. Like that's what Thomas Hobbes said. And I think a lot of people bought into it. And it doesn't mean we're not capable of being loving. It just means that we have to choose that and discipline ourselves. So that's kind of what I feel like a lot of us have been taught, but a lot of what we're coming to learn is that actually love is kind of the root of what animates us, like the first spark that ignites us into aliveness and action is a spark that makes us want to care for each other and care for ourselves and create more life. That's our natural intuition. And yeah, we can be pretty nasty sometimes too, but that's usually evidence that we're wounded or confused or otherwise just diverted from our loving impulses. And so yeah, I just want to say I think we have a choice here. And it's a very important choice. And Tia is going to now share some thoughts on that choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we listen to the news and clickbait and social media, it would be hard not to believe this first story, right? That humans are nasty and selfish and brutish. And even if you follow left-leaning independent media. The news still makes us forget how loving we are because stories about love are not newsworthy. And in a recent study, psychologists have found that the more exposure one has to the media, the more depression and PTSD symptoms they report. And I'm not saying to walk around willfully ignorant to what's happening in the outside world, but we should at least be aware about why we're so susceptible to the doom and gloom of the news. One reason is negativity bias, right? It's that we've evolved to be more attuned to the bad than the good. And that makes sense because as hunter-gatherers, um, evolved, we needed negativity bias because we were better off being afraid of snakes too often than not at all. And there's also a thing called availability bias, which is where we assume that a thing is relatively common if we can just recall an example of it happening. And so when the news covers the doom and gloom of the world, that's what our brain focuses on. And the news doesn't cover that my car hasn't been broken into since I moved to Oakland in 2007, or that millions of parents have been rocking their babies to sleep with no expectation of anything in return. And a whole bunch of people fell in love yesterday. That's not on the news. And some kids danced just moments ago in preschool, or a super busy person brought their friend to the airport. And I'm going to keep going because this is important to remember. There's another person loaned their neighbor $100. I know this. This is just truth, facts. A toddler learned how to say sorry. A kitten made a baby giggle. Countless adults took a picture of the full moon the other night as if it was the first time they have ever seen something so beautiful. And those pictures aren't in the news. Someone tasted a fruit called a rambutan for the first time yesterday. And this is more notable, but an average of 30,000 people escaped extreme poverty every day last week, and 30,000 people are expected to escape poverty every day for the next 6 years. And this isn't newsworthy anymore because this has been true every day for many years now. And that's important, but not newsworthy. And what is newsworthy are, according to mainstream media and even independent media, are stories that show that people are selfish and brutish and nasty. And there are scientific studies and so many anecdotes to support both stories about human nature, that either we're selfish or we're loving. And we also know from the nocebo and placebo phenomena that our brains trick us. Um, we're familiar with the placebo effect. I think most people know that it's the phenomenon in which someone who expects positive side effects for a medicine, for example, will experience positive side effects even if they were given a sugar pill. The nocebo effect is the opposite, and it also happens very commonly. Someone expects negative side effects and experiences worse side effects than those who weren't expecting negative side effects at all. So if both of these things are true, that um, that there are scientific studies that show both that humans are selfish and are loving, and there are anecdotes, and we know that our brain plays tricks on us, then we can actually choose to believe that people are good. Like, why not? Just choose it. You have to just choose one story, and we can't really know for sure which one is true. You could choose to believe that people are good. And if we believe people are good, if we just wake up and we're like, we're going to choose to believe people are good, then we'll treat people like they're good. And if we treat people like they're good, then they're more likely to act in ways that make them good. And similarly, if we believe that people are nasty and brutish, then we might treat people like that. And if we treat people like they're nasty and brutish, then they're more likely to act in ways that hurt us. So we're here to help you consume more things that will make you believe that human nature is loving. So here's an anecdote. What happens when a group of school-aged boys are trapped on an island with no grown-ups? If you went to high school in the United States like me, you likely read the book Lord of the Flies. It's about a plane load of British schoolboys who crash on a deserted Pacific island, and they're trapped there for a few weeks. Immediately, they choose a leader. His name is Ralph, and he makes three rules. One is to have fun, one is to survive, and the last one is to tend to the fire for smoke signals. They don't do that. They stop following the rules. They cast off their clothes. They develop overpowering urges to punch, kick, bite, and then they even murder each other. And when I read this book in high school, I remember thinking, yeah, that makes sense. And nobody told me that, I knew it was fictional, but I really developed a concept of human nature based on this book. And I think many of my classmates did too. And we weren't told that the exact opposite is what actually happened 34 years before I read The Lord of the Flies. It was in 1966. Six boys really did get trapped on a deserted island with no grown-ups. These 13 to 16-year-olds did the exact opposite of what happened in The Lord of the Flies. These six kids from Tonga were trapped on the island of Ata for 15 months, so more than a year, compared to the few weeks in Lord of the Flies. And by all accounts, this island is considered uninhabitable. But by the time the kids were rescued, they had set up a small commune with a food garden and hollowed out tree trunks to store rainwater and set up a gymnasium, a badminton court, chicken pens, and a permanent fire. Like they actually tended to the fire 24/7 for more than a year. And one day, awesome, somebody didn't know that story. One day, one of the kids even slipped off a cliff and broke their leg. And the others just helped him back up the cliff and took care of him. And they even said, "Don't worry, we'll do your work, like your share of the workload, and you just lie there and we'll treat you like a king." So that's what actually happens when a bunch of boys are trapped on a deserted island. But we're not taught that. I learned that story from this book called Humankind. It's a page turner by a historian who argues that we are hardwired for kindness, geared toward cooperation rather than competition, and more inclined to trust rather than distrust one another. He says that human beings, it turns out, are ultra social learning machines, and we're born to learn, to bond, and to play. So, this view of human nature should have huge implications for how laws are written, and it should influence how you live your life, and if you're a lawyer, how you practice law. So, let's go back to the slide that Janelle went over earlier. The book Humankind argues that we should choose and believe story number two. The author says, it can be no accident that the first archaeological evidence of war suddenly appeared 10,000 years ago, coinciding with the development of private property and farming. So that's what diverts us from our loving nature, the rise of private property and all the laws that we made to protect it. The people who believe story number one say it's the opposite, right? They say we're nasty, selfish, and brutish. And but for the laws of civil society, we would be like the kids in The Lord of the Flies. But the opposite seems to be true. Wars didn't happen until laws happened, and evidence of the war, of the worst things we've ever done as humans, only show up after we started casting these dark spells. These dark spells that, I mean, these, and Janelle is going to talk a little bit more about the sciencey stuff.
Yeah, sciencey stuff always helps, right? Because we might know a lot of this intuitively, but it really helps when the authoritative seeming people write it in academic journals so that we could, you know, point to that and say, hey, this is real, y'all. Um, so yeah, this is some of the science that I have dug up in recent times. And by recent, I mean a lot has come out in the last 20 or 25 years. And it's really been facilitated by MRI technology, where we can watch what's happening in our brains real time with a high level of detail. And yeah, just learn a lot about ourselves. And so the fact that it's also recent research means that many of these insights just haven't been integrated into, say, our legal system yet, or our thinking about just how do we want to organize a society if it turns out we're actually really loving. And so the first set of results or research findings here is really just about how we tend to make loving decisions when we're being kind of impulsive and we're making quick decisions. Like there's two systems in our brain that have been written about by this author, Daniel Kahneman, who wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And the slow part of our brain is, thought, like thinks things over and analyzes and calculates. But the other part of our brain is more like fast and intuitive. And when we're asked to make decisions about whether to be generous, we are way more generous when we make a quick decision. So it's like our first impulse is to be loving a lot of the time. So that gives me hope. And there's also a lot more evidence coming out about just how the feel good parts of our brain get lit up when we're good to others. And similarly, when other people are suffering and we're with them, they're the parts of our brain that indicate suffering, those light up, even if it's the other person who's suffering. And so there is just sort of a desire to want to support the aliveness of other people just because of how we're wired. And then there's studies that have been done with toddlers that just show that even they have this impulse to be helpful and kind. And then Tia found this other study about human mate selection, that kindness is the number one thing we look for. And so all of this together makes me feel like yeah, if I were only looking at the science, I would invest in what is it, story number two about how we're loving. But also the way that I've really come to believe that is not from the science, it's through my own experience of just noticing myself. And so this is just a prompt for you to contemplate as well. Have you ever noticed, or can you remember a time when, without even planning to be loving or caring or kind, suddenly you just were? Like maybe somebody appeared in front of you. It might have been a really cute, playful puppy. Or maybe it's a toddler, like this toddler appeared in front of me the other day with a striped shirt and cute overalls, and I just kind of froze, and I was just like, "Wow." Something just strikes you, you know? And for me, it's also in nature. The other day, I took a long video of a slug chewing on a mushroom, just chewing, chewing, chewing. Oh my gosh, I could watch this video forever, and I just think, "Oh, I was so happy for this slug to get such a big dinner." But yeah, where does that come from? I don't go around thinking that's a great way to spend my time. But but yeah, what it tells me is that just like intuitively, spontaneously, we tend to be loving. And so I just invite you to notice this more in yourself and really like what is in fact going on when you see something cute or beautiful is often it's a wish for that being to be okay, to be happy, to be healthy. And that's how I tend to define love. It's the wish for other things to be happy. Except for this spider that I swear. Okay, I don't love spiders. They look terrible working outside. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my I have a 3-year-old daughter. Her name's Kiki, and she has this impulse to feed bears. Like we went camping and there were bears in our campsite, and luckily she was sleeping, so she didn't see them. But when I was telling everybody that I saw the bears and that they were at our picnic table, but good thing we hid all of our food because the rangers told us to. She was just like, why? Like, why? I want to feed the bears. They're hungry. That's why they're at the picnic table. I want to feed them. And I'm like, it's just dangerous. And she was like, but if we feed them, they won't be hungry. And she just really wants to feed them and squish them. And in Tagalog, there's a word, it's nangigigil. There isn't an English translation, but but the closest I can think of is like it's called cuteness aggression or the urge to squish something because you love it so much. And yeah, I think that just really comes naturally to babies.
Mm, I love that. I love how loving we all are, and we just honestly can't help ourselves. And then, yeah, I think once we start to notice that in ourselves more, if we're intentional about paying attention to it, we just start to trust ourselves more, and like ourselves more, and also like everyone around us, because you kind of start to suspect that other people are like that too. So, yeah. All right. Thanks, Tia. I'm gonna pass it back to you.
Ah, all right. So, naturally, if we remember how loving we are as humans, the next thing we remember is that we belong with other loving humans. Um, but but there is a perception that we don't belong a lot of the time. And imposter syndrome is one way we experience the perception of not belonging. This article on imposter syndrome being the secret epidemic in the legal profession suggests a few ways to reframe our thoughts that cause us to believe we are imposters. So they say to shine a light on it, reach out for help, train your employers about imposter syndrome, seek mentoring, reframe your attitude about failure, and normalize your struggles. And we want to add another thing. What if you just reframe your mind to remember that you simply belong? Okay, sure. If you're in a law firm or in a group that is doing things against your values, then maybe it's good that you don't feel like you belong. But if you're feeling like an imposter in a group that's inspiring to you and values aligned, then just remember that you belong. They need you and you need them. And it's so important to remember we belong. It's essential to our survival. That's why loneliness is so painful, to remind us to reach for community, right? We feel pain when we touch hot things so that we can learn not to touch hot things anymore. And we feel pain when our bodies get sick so that we know that there's something wrong with our body. One study found that the effect of adult loneliness rivaled other well-established risk factors like air pollution and even smoking 15 cigarettes per day. So from an evolutionary standpoint, there really are just only a few things that are more dangerous than being all alone. And the main thing we need to know is the thing we knew even before we were born. We are inseparable parts of larger organisms and we need each other. According to attachment theory, children are wired to seek out and attach to people who provide the comfort and security they need to survive. And I'm all about attachment theory now because I'm in couples counseling, but um, what we've learned is that babies are born with an innate drive to attach to caregivers, and children who figure out how to keep a caregiver nearby were more likely to receive comfort and protection, which meant they were more likely to survive. So this strategy is how a child gets their basic needs met: food, water, emotional security, a sense of belonging. And because we're born with the drive to belong, the perception of not belonging triggers trauma responses, even when we're adults, like the freeze, flight, fight, fawn responses on the next slide. It's in these states of being when we're outside of our window of tolerance that we often fall into addictive behaviors. The ironic thing is that while these trauma responses can be triggered by feeling lonely or feeling like an imposter and a lack of belonging, the actions we take while in these states of trauma response often isolate us even more. So whether it's yelling at opposing counsel when we're in fight mode, or being a people pleaser with your boss in fawn mode, or an inability to make important decisions when you're in freeze mode, or reaching for addictive behaviors to help you mentally escape in flight mode, none of these things actually make you less isolated. They don't make you feel more connected. They don't make you more connected. And they're simply ways we've learned to survive. And it's likely that they're not efficient anymore in your current adult life with your current relationships. And they are especially inefficient in practicing law in a way that views and treats all humans as worthy and decent and kind and loving. But the thing about trauma responses is that we all do them, right? Because we've all experienced trauma. Like none of us here have escaped the trauma of witnessing the genocide in Palestine every day for the past 2 years, or the inhumane way the federal government is treating immigrants and transgender people, or even just the everyday grind and hustle of capitalism. So it's safe to assume that we have all responded to trauma by fighting, freezing, fleeing, or fawning. And sometimes those trauma responses make us act in nasty, selfish, or brutish ways. Like I know I have. And that's why this lucky charm is especially important to me. You belong, even if you've done something nasty, selfish, or brutish. In many respects, that's when belonging matters the most. And maybe your community doesn't know how to treat you like you still belong after there's some sort of conflict and rupture, but that doesn't mean that you don't belong. You do. So here's a helpful book that I'm offering as a lucky charm. Nora Samaran wrote an essay called The Opposite of Rape Culture is Nurturance Culture, which then became the seed of this book, Turn This World Inside Out. It is for thinking about conflicts and attachment theory applied to the community level. The book argues that when a community is able to hold a circle of belonging that humanizes everyone, they can create a foundation of nurturance that can begin to repair harms inflicted by patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism. So, this next activity is, thank you, Janelle, for making this beautiful slide again, but consider this. If you notice how love spontaneously surges forth from you and combine it with the scientific insights about humans are naturally and intuitively loving, then you can infer that you are surrounded by people with loving impulses. And if you imagine yourself as an engine of love and imagine that you are surrounded by engines of love, does it change how you feel about being in the world? Does this not make you feel like it'll be easy to find other spontaneously loving beings to join and to belong with? Does it change how you feel you need to act, what you need to do, how you do legal work? And in contemplating this, can you feel your armor softening? Can you feel your body relax? At the very least, you belong here in this meeting with us. That was so cheesy, but that's my lucky charm. It's Jenna's turn.
Isn't it easy to kind of filter ourselves? It's like there's the part of us, the wisest part of us knows this is true, and then there's the part of us that has been trained to be like, I'm sorry, that was cheesy. It's both, right? I do think that the core self, our true self, our wisest self knows this is true. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Tia. Um, oh yeah, were you gonna say one more thing?
Oh,
Or
that's just us at the Law Center,
sorry.
where, yeah, this meeting is, and you belong in this meeting.
That's right. That was your punchline, and I didn't get to the graphic on time. Yes, we all belong. Okay, so um before we kind of invite a little conversation as a group, we're going to share one more charm. And this is one where you get to actually interact and maybe experience a little connection. And so, in a moment, we're going to put people into randomly assigned breakout rooms as pairs. And this is your activity. It might feel a little contrived because it's partially scripted, but I would encourage you to just try it and see what happens. Um, and the idea behind this is, I mean, particularly as legal professionals, we are taught to interact with people in a very, I mean, honestly, kind of contrived way. Often it's like we're competitive, we're seeking to control, or we're trying to understand, am I better than this person, or can I use this person to my advantage? Like in a competitive environment, we don't tend to interact with people as genuinely and lovingly. And so this is just an opportunity for us to practice what we're good at, which is nurturing the aliveness in others. And so when we reflect on a question, what's something that I love about myself? And I share that with someone else. They can respond, "Oh, I love that about you too." And it's just an opportunity for us to nurture our uniqueness with each other and nurture our aliveness. And so in your breakout rooms, this is what you'll do. Oh, and I guess we should post it in chat. Do you mind posting the instructions in the chat, Ari? But yeah, Tia and I can also model it right now. I could ask Tia, hey, Tia, what's something that you love about yourself?
I love that I can be friends with someone who's like an outcast in the group, but then they become like a really loved member of the group because not because I'm friends with them, but because I knew before everyone else that they're cool.
I love that about you too, Tia.
Thank you. Well, what do you love about yourself, Janelle?
I love that I stopped for several minutes and watched a slug eat a mushroom the other day. I love that that was what I thought was the right thing to do.
And I love that about you too, Janelle.
Aw, thanks, Tia. All right, folks, you're going to be in breakout rooms for about 3 minutes. And so if you have extra time, you can repeat the activity. And yeah, I think Ari's about ready to send you all in.
Did everyone get his Anyone have any issues?
Yeah.
Ari, hi. I did. I was there and by myself, so I came back.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
great.
oh
Could you send
wow.
me again? Thanks.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
see.
thanks. I accidentally pushed join too quick.
Okay, let's see.
I think I was in room 2. That
Yeah,
helps.
let's see. Hmm.
Or Ellen. Well, I guess
Oh,
Erica's now
oh,
alone
and
in the
then she's by herself. Sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have come back. I'm not sure how to.
Does it still have a link for you to join here?
Hmm. Oh, I have the sun in my face. I don't see a link.
Okay, let me show
Sorry.
it.
I pushed join and then I heard you guys still talking. So I'm like, oops, I don't think I was supposed to go there yet. So I came back.
Right. I
well,
think
maybe we
one
could
way to
love
do
on.
it is to put Ellen in a
Like,
different room and Erica in that room.
oh, maybe.
Just had to restart an invitation sometimes.
Cool.
Or we could just ask you, Ellen, what do you love about yourself?
I love the sun shining in my hair right like that. Isn't that pretty? I'm just kidding.
I love that about you too, Ellen.
Me too.
I'm loving the sun is loving me right now. I actually went outside because my partner's in working and I was gonna bother him by, oh, now Erica's with us, by
Well,
telling
Erica here so she can
you
participate.
all what I love about myself.
I do love that sun on your hair.
I know,
Er-
isn't it great?
Erica, we
Mm.
did not succeed in getting everyone into breakout rooms, and so we just wanted to ask you, what do you love about yourself?
Um, I love that I share so much and
Mm.
don't like to keep secrets or tell lies.
Oh,
Mm.
Oh, I
I love
love that
that.
about you.
Yeah, I love that about you. That's awesome. Mm.
let's ask Ari, and then I think that'll probably be enough time. We'll bring people back. Does that sound right? Ari, what do you love about yourself?
I love that I can not take myself so seriously sometimes.
Mm.
I love
I
that about you
love
too,
that.
Ari.
I love
Oh, I love that about you.
I love that.
Oh,
Mm.
Nice. Well, I didn't track time, but it seems right to bring people back, you think?
mhm.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, I'll do close rooms. Okay. Oh, great. And we still have 55 seconds. Mm.
Mm. I love that I'm getting CLE and having and sitting in the sunshine. That's what I love.
Yeah. I love that for you too.
Yeah. This is the best CLE ever for
I
so many reasons.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's what we love to hear.
Yes. Okay. That's validating. Then we're going to do a part 2 and maybe keep going with it. We had
I
a lot
love
of
it.
ideas that got cut for this workshop. So, all right, not quite everybody is back, but I did make this slide to summarize, so you can look at that. Thanks for doing that activity, everybody. I think we're back now, or we're almost back. Huh. Maybe
I
that is
think
it.
Jenny froze and got kicked off or kicked herself off while we were in our pair. So
Oh, shit.
hopefully she'll come back.
Okay. All right. So we just led you through all kinds of wacky activities, contemplations, interactions, and all of that was for the purpose of just helping unbreak that spell. This is just our review slide that to summarize that our legal system it really does harm us, and our profession harms us by setting us up in this system of winners and losers and then making us feel like we don't belong until we have successfully competed in that system. And so some of the ways we're trying to break the spells is just to remember that we already belong because we're beautiful clouds of aliveness. We're loving. We're surrounded by beings who are loving and they love us even if they don't know us yet. And love is something that we can find and create and nurture at any time. So hopefully you've gotten to experience a little bit of that today. And if you would like some more lucky charms, I recently put together a little booklet of 38 little
Mm.
charms. These are like little reminders and slogans that help me connect to love and remember that this is actually a really beautiful world I'm living in. So there's a link there. And yeah, Tia will now facilitate us to chat a little bit.
Yeah, now it's just for the next 9 minutes, we could just talk about anything you would like to share, reflections on what we've shared today, or any tips of your own that helps you break spells of fear, competition, and isolation. Feel free to raise your hand or just unmute.
I would just like to share that I really enjoy seeing you all. We don't see each other enough. Hi. Thanks for hosting this and bringing some humanity and compassion to my legal workday.
Thank you,
For
Misty.
sharing.
So glad you could join us.
Hey, Tia,
Hi,
could I
Sue.
recommend you unspotlight you guys so we can see people when they talk?
Oh, yeah.
Just for some more love.
Nice. Thank you, Sue.
And actually, I can stop sharing my screen in a moment because this was the last slide, right? Maybe we'll go ahead and mention this
Oh, yeah.
is part 2. Yeah. Did you want to say anything more about that, Tia?
Just that on January 21st, we have a part 2. Thank you, Ari, for putting the event link. And it's just going to be a continuation of this. We had so many charms to share and we couldn't fit it all in 1 hour. So we're like, let's just do a part 2 instead of squeezing everything in. And we're going to talk about hierarchy, spells to break hierarchy, and how to remap our anxieties and so many other things. So please join us. Now you can stop sharing your slides and then we can just talk.
I am curious about what you present to the state bar so that they're okay for us having lovey feely conversations and giving us credit for that.
We actually don't have to, present anything. We just have to say the things we said in the beginning about what is required of us and basically say why we think this applies.
It's interesting. I mean, part of the reason I included all the science is just to make sure that there was something, it looks real serious in here. But it is sincere that like getting to the root of what causes us suffering as lawyers and legal professionals, if we're being real about it, the root is in the profession itself and a lot of the assumptions it's built on. And yeah, I've been to other CLDs too that are like about just practicing meditation for an hour, and they do want us to find and heal ourselves by some means. But so yeah, welcoming feedback though.
Super interesting that the statistic of 9% go in with depression and 40 leave, and really interesting. I can imagine a lot of that is born in the hyper competitiveness. I mean, I never did the thing where you hide books or you don't share your notes if someone's at that whole thing, but you hear about those stories where people just get like kind of cutthroat, hyper competitive in law school, and it's just not as it's kind of on the Lord of the Flies, but not our natural way.
Yeah.
And there's something about there always being, being taught to live in the gray, but really there's a right and a wrong, a winner and a loser. So there's no way to be right. Or you're just trying to find it in this impossible world where there isn't always a winner and a loser, or there shouldn't be.
Yeah. It's like a futile search
Mm-hmm.
and a futile effort to become some perfect version of ourselves that we envision, but we'll never get there.
Yeah, the perfectionism is a real issue.
Yeah.
But it's nice to remember we have lots of bits of ourselves that are
Yeah.
even aren't lots of bits of ourselves that aren't even us either. Like all the other organisms are in there doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
I feel like another interesting part of it is like how all of us kind of affect each other and like our moods and our anxiety and stuff. Because, like, with my experience with law school, it was never really like hyper competitive or anything, but just everybody was so anxious all the time. And it made me really anxious to be around them. Like, oh, I do need to be worrying about these things.
Yeah, I love the all the trillions of organisms in us, Janelle. Thank you for that. That was a great meditation. I didn't have a chance to meditate this morning, so I feel like I got it in this hour. And it's reminding me of elements meditation we did together in the forest on a silk staff retreat, and how much I love doing that meditation with you.
Oh.
I do think that one of the most beneficial things that I've learned post law school is I took the 40-hour mediation training. And although I didn't pursue kind of professional mediation services, I did a bunch of volunteer mediations. And I just saw magic happen when we listen to each other and when people feel heard and feel respected, that they basically drop that urge to fight. And I bring more of that into my practice and negotiations and dealing with conflict than probably anything else that I've kind of received training for. So it is interesting that when we come at problems in a mediative, like a collaborative way, that we often find kind of less resistance and more resolution.
I love that. Imagine if that were the first year law curriculum. Yeah.
Not just the elective you take in your third year that you don't show up to half the time.
Yeah. Or after law school that you have to pay for and like spend 40 hours away from your family. But yeah, it's so helpful though. I probably use it every day, maybe not even knowingly, but
So we basically, since we all got infected or were infected by this anxious bubble of other organisms, we're basically like realigning ourselves and then trying to reinfect everyone else with something different.
Yes, exactly.
Contagious love, spread it.
Please spread it. That was the whole point.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We are out of time, but yeah, this was so fun. Even though it was a small group, hopefully you can come next time. And we'll record that too if you can't come.
Great. Thank you.
great. Thank you all so
Great
much.
to see you.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Tia. Thank you, Jill.
Okay.
Taking us